When I first played Breath of the Wild, I was disappointed. Wait, don't click dislike just yet. I swear this isn't a hit piece or anything. I actually do like the game. But while I got my Switch fairly early on, it wasn't at launch. By that point, I'd already seen Breath of the Wild hyped up to death, and even the occasional case of pretty large-scale hostility towards those that criticized the game. On top of this, the Zelda franchise is a formative part of my childhood. I'm pretty sure A Link to the Past is the platonic ideal of a video game in my head. Because of this, I had two sets of expectations going into Breath of the Wild. One unreasonable set, created by the sheer tidal wave of hype behind the game, and one that's just the burden of being an entry in a franchise. And because of this, my being disappointed in the game was kind of inevitable. I expected the game to be two different things, neither of which were what it was actually trying to be. The point of all this setup is that my perspective was distorted. I expected the game to simply deliver me a certain set of things, rather than trying to meet the game halfway. And normally when playing a game, I do try to meet it halfway or even go further. I want to try my hardest to understand what a game is trying to be and find the good in it, no matter how many flaws I have to look past. And the fact that I wasn't doing this is a particular problem given what type of game Breath of the Wild turned out to be. When it finally clicked for me, it was because I realized it feels like a game from the 6th generation of consoles. Wait, stop, don't hit dislike, I swear this is a good thing. I'm one of those people who view the 6th generation as a golden age of games. It's an era of creative games with clear vision and little fluff. Sure, they had their flaws, but this was the right combination of technology and creative freedom that created what I consider to be the artistic peak of the medium. Breath of the Wild is an excellent game carried by its brilliant vision and cohesive design. Even if I do think that many of the mechanics aren't well executed or explained and the menus are clunky, that vision is still enough that I had an amazing time with it. And I couldn't discuss Breath of the Wild without at least referencing the fact that I do still believe it is the best execution of an open world in all of video games. It's a game that experiments and pursues a clear vision. I often feel like these sorts of games aren't made or appreciated these days, which makes Breath of the Wild's success honestly kind of surprising. And these definitely aren't made by big companies and appreciated by large audiences, and yet Breath of the Wild was made and it was appreciated. I love games like this. I go out of my way to seek out old games that are creative and interesting even when they're flawed. They're games that a lot of people often put down, especially these days, and I'm disappointed I wound up making this mistake with a game such as Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is an excellent game, but because I was too caught up in my expectations, I wasn't willing to meet the game halfway, and I didn't enjoy it at first. And yeah, I consider this to be something I'm usually pretty good at avoiding, but sadly not in this case, and sadly many people just aren't willing to give games this sort of chance in the first place. If there's a lesson to all this, learn to try and meet games halfway and try to see past their flaws to see what's good about them. And this goes triple for any major Breath of the Wild fans out there. If you want more games that make people feel the way you did about Breath of the Wild, learn to try and find something to appreciate in games even when they have their glaring faults. To bring this all back around to the big game releasing tomorrow as I record this, probably today or even a couple days ago as you watch this, I'm kind of worried that Tears of the Kingdom won't do well. It could end up better than Breath of the Wild, yet not be received with the same open minds, or perhaps worst of all, it could be compared to an idealized version of Breath of the Wild that people have created in their heads instead of the version that actually exists. So when you're playing Tears of the Kingdom, or really any other game, try and avoid judging it by what you wanted or imagined the game would be. Just try and keep an open mind, acknowledge and accept any flaws, and try and find what the game is really trying to be, and then judge it on that instead of on your expectations. I guarantee you'll enjoy games a lot more this way.